guys, welcome to Brandix Reviews, another edition of BXR Mailbag. In keeping with kind of a tradition for the last few videos, I've been talking about James Bond stuff, simply because it's October, Spectre is almost here on October the 26th. It gets released in the UK. So anyway, let's get straight down to it. Anyway, this one is, surprise, coming from Paul Cage, who's certainly no stranger to this channel. Anyway, his question is as follows. I know you have done James Bond themed videos in the past, but could you go into a bit more detail on what Spectre actually is and who Blofeld is and which actors have played him? Also, does Spectre stretch across all Bond films somehow, kind of like Moriarty in the Sherlock Holmes, who's behind most of Sherlock's enemies? A number of questions there. Kind of where do I start? Well, I'll start with who Blofeld is and who Spectre is in the films, and then I'm going to get into a bit of kind of background information on it, because there's quite a lot of stuff that I've only learned in recent times myself, and I've been a big James Bond film for the past 20 years. It's been like my main franchise that I've loved. But anyway, in the films, well, you ask, does he span across all films? No, he doesn't. Spectre did get its start in the films in the first film, Dr. No. It was mentioned. Dr. No in that film was kind of the top guy that you saw in that film. But of course we do know that he wasn't the top guy in Spectre, he was just a member of it. And then we got to see Blofeld, who was number one in the later films. But it was established, Spectre was established in Dr. No. In fact, let's play a clip from that.
I'm a member of Spectre.
Spectre?
Spectre. Special Executive for Counterintelligence, Terrorism, Revenge, Extortion. The four great cornerstones of power, headed by the greatest brains in the world.
Correction. Criminal brains.
The successful criminal brain is always superior. It has to be.
Why become criminal? I'm sure the West would welcome a scientist of your caliber.
The Americans are fools. I offered my services, they refused. So did the East. Now they can both pay for their mistake.
World domination. Same old dream.
So that kind of explains what Spectre is. It really did kind of, like I say, lay the foundation of what was to come in the future films. Pretty much all of the Sean Connery films, up to Diamonds Are Forever, and also including the George Lazenby one, which was the fifth film, because of course Sean Connery came back to do Diamonds Are Forever after the George Lazenby film. There was an exception though. Blofeld, Spectre, they weren't in Goldfinger, which was the third film in the franchise in the Sean Connery era. So, like I said, that kind of explains who they are, what they were. He was kind of behind all the bad guys, because like from Dr. No, from Russia with Love, Thunderball, you had a main villain in that, and it wasn't Blofeld, but we knew Blofeld was kind of there above them. So Blofeld was then established in You Only Live Twice in 1967. Donald Pleasance played that character. And that was when they kind of went with a bald guy. In the next film, which was the George Lazenby one, because Sean Connery kind of bowed out at that point. I think he was on kind of bad terms with some of the producers. So he was replaced by George Lazenby. I didn't mind him. He wasn't the best, but some people hated him, but I thought he was actually pretty good. And it was a pretty good film as well. But that was Telly Savalas that played Blofeld in that film. And then Sean Connery, of course, came back in Diamonds Are Forever, the next film, which was 1971. It was played by Charles Gray, who at this point had grown hair. Well, the character had grown hair because he had hair, so there you go. Kind of weird. But that was the last time we saw Blofeld officially in these films. Now, some of you may say, no, there was that Roger Moore one, For Your Eyes Only. We saw Blofeld in that film. It was clearly him. Yes and no. To us, it was Blofeld, and it was meant to be Blofeld unofficially. But there's a lot of issues with the rights to that character, and I'm going to get into that. So what they did was, as a kind of like up yours to the people that were lodging court injunctions against them from having any more Spectre or Blofeld in their film franchise, they said, well, we'll have this character that just, isn't referred to as Blofeld, but it's Blofeld. So that's what we had in For Your Eyes Only in the pre-credit sequence. It's like a bald guy in a wheelchair, and Roger Moore's James Bond kind of gets a helicopter and picks him up on the kind of winch or whatever, and then drops him down a chimney. So a kind of memorable ending to that character anyway in that kind of iteration, I guess. But like I say, He wasn't Blofeld officially in that film. In fact, interestingly, there was this in the 90s. I don't know if a lot of you'll remember this, but this was a CD-ROM. I remember those things. Back in 97, I think this came out. And it was like a dossier, basically. You'd play it on like Windows 95. Well, not play it, it wasn't a game. But it listed all the characters in which films they were in. And that character from For Your Eyes Only was just listed as wheelchair villain and wasn't even in any way kind of associated with Blofeld. And me and my co-reviewer, the core, always used to say, what the hell, wheelchair villain? It's Blofeld. We didn't really see the kind of background story to it, why they had to do it that way. But like I say, officially wheelchair villain, to me and you, it's Blofeld, we know that. So that's pretty much it. But where did all this court injunction actually come from? Who owned the rights to this? Because surely it was Ian Fleming that wrote all the James Bond books, right? That is the case. So if he created it, how could he not have the rights to it? Well, he published Thunderball, which is one of the books. It wasn't the first book that he wrote, but it was one of them, and I think it was 1961, so it was the year before any of the films were made, any of the Sean Connery films were made. The first film was 1962, so 1961 he published Thunderball, and when it came out, he had some, associates. One of them was Kevin McClory. I think there was another guy as well. And they claimed that they had all kind of come up with the idea of Spectre and Blofeld together. Then Ian Fleming just kind of buggered off on his own, wrote this story, and then claimed all the rights to it and stuff. So it was like loads of court injunctions, and this went on for a long time. We're talking only up to the last few years that this kind of ceased. But it's been a real kind of thorn in the side of the film producers, and Ian Fleming had to fight this in his last, couple of years. He died in 1964, so that book, like I said, was 1961 when Thunderball was published, from what I understand, anyway. So that was his his exit on this whole thing, out of this world, was fighting all this. So not a very well liked guy, Kevin McClory, to a lot of James Bond fans. And he went on and on with this. So anytime there's been like a delay with Bond films coming out, it's usually been down to him and just having fights to fight instead of making Bond films. Not always, but sometimes. So, I mean, this dragged on. It got through, into the 80s, where he then... Because obviously they made Thunderball. They came to kind of an amicable agreement in 1965. They made Thunderball, but he wasn't happy with that. He wanted to keep going. So he remade Thunderball in a non-official James Bond film. I say non-official, it wasn't part of the franchise that we know. It's a film called Never Say Never Again. It had Sean Connery in, which I think a lot of the film producers felt kind of betrayed that he went along with this, because having Sean Connery in kind of gave it to a lot of people legitimacy to even to this day, people think that Never Say Never Again is a bona fide James Bond film like the others. It really isn't, no more than Austin Powers, I guess, or any of these other films that aren't James Bond films but kind of claim to be, in a sense. Anyway, the point is, they made Thunderball, Never Say Never Again, which was a remake of Thunderball. It doesn't even go with the other films. It doesn't make sense. It's a remake of Thunderball, and it's crap. It's a terrible film. Came out the same year as Octopussy, which was with Roger Moore. That film did infinitely better, so the kind of counter-franchise went nowhere. But he kept trying it, believe you me. And Cubby Broccoli, the producer, similarly to Ian Fleming, ended up fighting this to his death, basically, and in 96, I think it was. But it just went on and on, didn't end until Kevin McClory passed away in 2006, a few days after Casino Royale came out, from what I understand, and it was then that they got the rights back, now that he's deceased. So you started to see in the Daniel Craig films little things kind of emerging, like this organisation that is now going to be Spectre, so that's kind of where it's gone to. But I hope that answers your question anyway. There's more you can learn about this if you watch this documentary called Everything or Nothing, the Untold Story of James Bond. And it came out in 2012 for the 50th anniversary of the film franchise. It does a better job of telling the story than me anyway, so definitely check that out. I'm going to leave it there because I'm very conscious of running out of time. So for now, I'm going to say thank you very much for the mailbag submission, Paul. And we'll leave it there and say thank you very much for watching. Hi guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Just so you know, for more news, reviews and retrospectives, you can like our page on Facebook, simply called Brand X Reviews. But as well as that, you can also subscribe to us on YouTube via this video. You can also bookmark our website, which is brandxreviews.com, which is pretty much a central hub for everything that I've just mentioned. So check that out and we will see you next time. Thank you very much.